Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. So, bit of a different video today from my garage. This is my 2022 Audi Q4 e-tron. This is my father's new 2025 Honda CR-V Hybrid Touring, which ironically enough gets better gas mileage than my previous car, which was a Ford Fusion Energy plug-in hybrid. And yet this is a standard hybrid. It doesn't plug in. It generates power from the engine to the battery or via regenerative braking. And then here is my mom's 2017 Mercedes GLC 300, which doesn't look that old, but we've had it 9 years. We are pondering contenders, like we are thinking about contenders for a new vehicle for mom, and oddly enough, the dealer we get this car serviced at has an EQE SUV for sale, so my father and I might test drive that this Friday if it's not sold by then, but I don't think it will be, because these newer EVs, they have such a steep price point initially, but then they depreciate like no other. And since Mercedes is discontinuing the EQE next year, I would imagine that's going to drop the price even more, like with the already insane depreciation and a good deal combined on top of that, because they're revamping their electric lineup. But anyway, enough about that. I'm making this video to talk about how things are going at my new job. So last week on Wednesday, I finally got the call stating that I am cleared to start behind the wheel training. And so the very next day, Thursday of last week, I did start on that. And unlike when I started behind the wheel training at First Student 4 years ago, I got to drive a school bus the very first day, because I'm not sure if I ever talked about the training from First Student, but the first day I didn't get to drive. I just did dexterity, few other things, but then the next day I did get to drive, but it was a hydraulic brake bus. Then the third day I finally got behind the wheel of an air brake bus, and it was air brakes from that day forward until it was time to take the road test. And I did take the road test in an air brake bus, which is why I have an air brake endorsement on my CDL. But obviously the First Student location I drove for after I got out of the training center did not have any air brake buses. Well, actually, I take that back. I lied. They had one air brake bus, but it was the oldest bus on the lot, and it took a dump in summer of 2022. So not even 1 year after I got hired by First Student. And that engine, see, I remember making the training video on that bus, and the engine was making strange knocking noises as if it wasn't properly lubricated, but I know it had oil, so it made funny noises sometimes. And then 2 months after I made that video, it finally bit the dust, took a complete dump, but luckily it was the summer and not sometime during the school year where there were children on the bus while it broke down. So yeah, I'm still grateful that I was one of the last few drivers to drive that bus, because if I didn't think to make a training video with it, which was actually my boss at the time's idea, I didn't even have to ask, I probably never would have been behind the wheel of that bus. And originally they didn't want to put me in that bus because it had a lot of problems. It was very old, and something could have gone wrong at any time. So yep, I mean, it was pretty much inevitable that it was going to bite the dust. But yeah, that ship has sailed. Never since then, that first student location had no air brake buses other than air assist for the wheelchair buses. But anyway, the current school district that I drive for, which I'm not going to reveal any details about, and I'm not going to make any videos with their buses, they don't have any air brake buses at all, which I've already come to accept. Now's not the time for me to be picky about the types of school buses I want to drive and the spec I want. I've been 3 months without a job, and it's been tough. I've been trying to economize, but I also have bills to pay, healthcare, car registration, insurance, my monthly car payment, those sorts of things. I currently owe about $16,000, give or take, on this car, which not too bad. I could probably pay it off by next year. But honestly, now that I'm starting to think about it, I kind of do regret this purchase. I don't hate the car. I actually love the car very much. It's been my fastest accelerating car I've ever owned. And just shy of 300 horsepower too. It's that instant electric torque combined with it being four-wheel drive that makes it so powerful. But I bought that car because the Fusion I had, which oddly enough, I lost the most money on depreciation selling that car than any other car. That car had its hybrid system was poorly engineered from the factory, and Ford knew it, because the only thing cooling that battery in the summer was a small cooling fan, so not actual air conditioning or a special agent that keeps the battery to a certain temperature, kind of like this car has. This is a liquid-cooled battery. And the other problem was, although the vehicle still was under its 8-year, 100,000-mile electric powertrain warranty, Ford did not want to acknowledge that, and they wanted to charge me $178 for a diagnostic fee, which I thought that was pretty expensive considering it's a Ford and not something like a Mercedes or an Audi. And so I figured, well, I may as well drive a Mercedes or an Audi. And so that's why I got that car. I got a screaming deal on it, thinking that, I would have the money to make the payments. And I did, until I quit my job 3 months ago, which, I've touched about in live streams and videos. I may make a full detailed video because I know sometimes those streams lag out and some of the things I say don't end up being heard because of that. But yeah, I bought this car because I thought I had good job security, but I didn't. And I got treated like I basically wasn't human too, so I ended up leaving. But anyway, now I'm driving for a school district as opposed to a school bus company that's a corporation like First Student. The people there are nicer, but then again, since it's a school district, I believe they tend to be more strict about making videos with the buses that are owned by the transportation department. Now, the reason why I'm not going to be making videos is because, number one, they seem like nice people, but I am sort of afraid to ask for permission to film these kinds of videos. And, if you're on the spectrum like me, I have Asperger's syndrome, you could probably understand why. It's because I'm afraid to be told no. Because, imagine asking to be able to do one of your favorite things in the world only to be told no and have your dreams completely shattered. So for that reason, I mean, for that reason and the fact that I've had issues regarding my videos with both First Student and Ideal Charter, that was where I was working previously, I'm not going to take that chance with the school district that I am currently training at right now. But anyway, I do want to say the training is going well. People there are very friendly, like I've said, and no air brakes, but there is one good thing, and that is I am getting benefits with this job, which I have never had a job that gave me benefits, like we're talking health insurance, 401k, retirement funds, so on and so forth. But also, unlike First Student, there are no small buses, and the only small buses they have are on the same chassis as the big buses. They're ICCEs, and I know I've dogged IC bus in the past, but now's not really the time for me to be picky. And IC still does make better buses than Lion Electric, because I've heard about the fires and whatnot. There have been 3 of them so far, and one region has actually pulled all Lion Electric buses from the road because of the fires. So, yeah, that's pretty scary. But oddly enough, we actually do have 3 Lion C electric buses in my school district's transportation department. And those do have Child Checkmate. So you might remember I made a lot of Child Checkmate videos when I was at First Student, and I also own systems from either friends or from junk buses that had their engine and transmission removed or were otherwise retired from service. And then I also have a few systems that I've ordered directly from Child Checkmate, as I do have connections there. I actually haven't reached out to them in a while, so I might do that soon when money becomes available, of course. But, oh yeah, that reminds me. The only reason I did reach out to them to buy a system is because, like I said, my former neighbor wanted to, had the idea of buying an old bus to use as a shuttle for downtown. Well, that idea has been scrapped because, I guess plans for one of the shuttle locations got canceled, and therefore canceled the shuttle operations plans altogether, which is a bummer, but whatever. I mean, he's had crazier ideas, and some of them have come to fruition, others haven't, this being one that hasn't come to fruition. But nobody's perfect. We can all dream big, but acting on those dreams is how you get your goals accomplished. And you can only do so much at a time, so that's pretty much how that happened. But, yeah, it's a bummer, but at least I have a Child Checkmate system that I can do electrical engineering on anytime I want. But interestingly enough, the systems in the Lion Cs we have are the California compliant systems, even though we're in Illinois. And the reason I know that is because I own a California compliant Child Checkmate and TheftMate system. And the system auto-activates after 5 seconds of the ignition being on. And it did the exact same in the Lion Cs. But of course, since this is not First Student, those buses only have Child Checkmate and not TheftMate. And the door is monitored, so it has to be closed in order to do the child search. And the parking brake also has to be set. So if you shut the ignition off and the parking brake's not set, you'll hear a warning chime. You have to put the parking brake on, turn the ignition key on, and then back off, and then you can do your child search. Which California is the only state that requires that the parking brake be on to do your child search. And whether or not you have to connect to the parking brake is really up to the manufacturer and or the maintenance technicians. But it is in law that California school buses have to have their parking brake on and doors closed to do the child search. So that's why some buses, but not all, will have the system connected to the parking brake, so that way the child search is only done when the parking brake's on. Doesn't matter if the bus has park. If the parking brake's not set and the system is connected to the parking brake, it will be able to detect that it's not set and it won't let you do the check. But yeah, so that was pretty interesting to see when after training, when we were messing around with the Lion Cs, specifically the Child Checkmate. But oddly enough, those are the only buses that have Child Checkmate, because the ICCEs obviously come standard with their own Leave No Student Behind system. Functions a lot like Child Checkmate and has a rear reset button, but it isn't the same system ultimately. And I do think Child Checkmate is better, as they practically invented the child reminder system for school buses back in '93. So they've been around 32 years. And I definitely think a key off deactivation system is better than on, because you can take the key with you in that instance and you don't have to fumble around with the key trying to figure out, do I deactivate it in off or on? Because I know in the CEs you have to deactivate it in accessory, but in buses with Child Checkmate, it ultimately depends on the version of Child Checkmate you have. I didn't really look in the fuse box, so I can't tell if those Lion Cs have an EP1 or an EP2, but I'll definitely look into that maybe tomorrow if I have an opportunity. So with that being said, the CEs with their hydraulic brakes, I thought the parking brake was going to be awkward to set or release, but it really isn't. At least for the old ones. The new ones, it's a little different because it's push on, push off, kind of like a Honda Odyssey, before they went to the electric parking brake. So they actually made the parking brake harder to set and possibly release as well in the new CEs compared to the older ones where you had the pull tab, but you have to have your foot on the brake and the key on, otherwise it won't release because it's interlocked. But yeah, it really isn't that hard to apply, and it's actually significantly easier than even the Thomas C2s that I was driving for First Student. So I really like that, even though I won't be driving air brakes in this transportation division. So air brakes are one thing I'll miss, but people treating me like I'm not human too is something I won't. Take care, you guys.